Welcome to part 3 of the Types of eLearning series, which covers 8 types of eLearning to consider based on your needs. This video will go over individual and collaborative eLearning, as well as the factors to think about when deciding which style is the most appropriate for your content. If you haven't already, make sure to watch the first 2 videos of this series. Part 1 covers fixed and adaptive eLearning, which have contrasting levels of content adaptability. Meanwhile, Part 2 focuses on synchronous, asynchronous, linear, and interactive eLearning, which all vary in terms of learner and instructor interaction. Individual and collaborative eLearning. As the name suggests, with individual eLearning, students study the learning materials by themselves and are expected to meet learning objectives on their own without depending on their peers. This is a more traditional style of learning, which suits students who prefer to do things at their own pace and are also highly self-motivated. The drawback to this type of eLearning is that the lack of peer communication doesn't help develop students' communication skills or teamwork abilities. Like asynchronous eLearning, limited check-ins also may result in a sense of isolation, as well as complacency within the learner. On the opposite end, collaborative eLearning focuses on having several learners study together and achieving their learning goals as a group. The completion of the course is reliant on the combined efforts of all the students. Each learner must also assess their own strengths and weaknesses, as well as their peers, to determine how best to approach a task. This style of learning works best when an objective of your course is to help promote teamwork and critical thinking. It helps to enhance communication skills and encourages students to learn from their peers, particularly if they come from differing backgrounds. However, it's important to consider that not all students will benefit from this style of e-learning, and it could result in cases where the work is unevenly distributed or where some students are overlooked. Choosing the appropriate style. Throughout our series, we've gone through 8 different types of e-learning, which you can base your content around. There are some key questions you can ask yourself to determine which suits your needs best. 1. What are your objectives and priorities for your learning content? For example, do you simply want to make information accessible? Or is the material something that needs to have an instructor on hand to make sure they can answer questions straight away? 2. What are your constraints? Think about your limitations, particularly the time you have to develop and run your content, your access to the required technology, the skill set of your instructors, and, if applicable, the budget you have to execute certain elements. From there, you can start figuring out what you can work with. Also, something important to remember is that you don't need to stick to one style. You can incorporate elements of each type to create a structure that best suits you. For example, if you're creating a course, you can have sections with independent learning and include activities with collaborative learning. You can also tweak your course structure according to feedback from your learning cohort so that you can continuously improve your content and ensure it's always fit for purpose. Summary. Fixed and adaptive e-learning is where learning material is rigid or can be adjusted according to students' needs. Synchronous, asynchronous, linear, and interactive e-learning center on the types of interaction and communication learners have with their instructors. And finally, individual and collaborative e-learning both revolve around the level of interaction learners have with their peers. Ultimately, these different styles are not mutually exclusive, and you can always combine different elements from each of them to create e-learning content that best suits you and your learners. Want to learn more tips and strategies? Visit interserv.com.au to find out how we can help you with your education and training needs.